Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special episode of the Dr. Keith Darrow Podcast. Today, we welcome really a pioneer, somebody who has been helping to push audiology and hearing healthcare in the right direction for many years. Dr. Nichole Kingham, welcome to the show today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
No, absolutely. I've been really looking forward to this. For those who don't know, I actually finally got to meet Dr. Nichole in person at our recent boot camp, which was just great. We got to spend a few minutes on the couch, just sort of getting to learn about you. And, I've been following you. I know you've got a practice. I know that you've got an online training academy. I know that you're looking to push the field in the right direction. You're on a board at AAA. And now I've got to learn, above all of that, you're a mom to 8.
That's right.
And so, I've got to learn more about that, right? Before I even dive into the professional, tell me a little bit about your story and how you came to be.
Sure. So I'll talk about the kids first, because it's really, most people are like, excuse me?
Exactly.
Did you say 8?
I spend a lot of time with Mormons, so I get it. It doesn't shock me as much anymore, but yes, it's still a shock to the system.
So they're not all mine. So they're not all, I'll say it this way. They're not all born of me, but they are all mine.
Yes.
So 5 of them are my husband's and 3 are mine. So 8 altogether. But they've been in my life now for a very long time. So there is no distinction between mine and yours. And I love them each in their own personalities, in their own way. They all have been successful in their lives so far, which is really great. And the oldest will be 30 in June, and the youngest is 16. So we've got a pretty big span. And we also have a grandbaby. So grandbaby is 2.5, and I get to see her every day. And that really is they say that having grandkids makes up for having children.
I haven't heard that one.
It really is just awesome to have her in our lives every day. So, that's been a great blessing the last 2 years.
Yeah. And I know that you and I got to spend a little time talking about the success of some of your children, be it in the armed services. It's just, you've done an incredible job. And to think that raising 8 children, look, 16 to 30 isn't that big of a span when there's 8 kids.
Yeah.
That's only every 2 years.
Yeah, that is.
If you really do the math there. So
yeah.
That is very impressive. And so how does one say, I'm managing all of this, but I'm also going to build, look, I see you building an empire, right? Yeah. I see you doing something extraordinary and remarkable in hearing healthcare. And a lot of people will just say, no, I can't do that. I'm too busy.
Yeah. Well, I think that you and I might have the same opinion that work-life balance is a lie. You really just have to decide what's important. And I really just have to give all the props to my husband in particular, but also I have a strong base. I really have people around me that encourage me, who I know I can go to when I'm not feeling strong or courageous. I do have very strong mentors. And so it's not on my own at all. I have a strong team in my office, in my private practice. And there's something to be said about being able to leave, like to go to your neuroscience boot camp. I was out of the office for 3 days and I didn't worry about a thing. I didn't have to worry about a thing because my team is well trained and I'm confident in their skills. And I know I can leave and everything's going to be taken care of. So it's about building the foundation, a very strong foundation. You have to have multiple pillars that are on top of that foundation, and strong mentors are a part of that.
Yeah, none of us do it alone. Right. Everything we try to do, we need help personally. We need that support at home, and then we need it at work. And to build an autonomous team is probably one of the most common issues I see
Yeah.
with not only, my clients that I work with every day, but even just the people I bump into in audiology. And look, I got those emails right before the boot camp that said, I can't make it. I can't be out of my office. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It's been a hard month, just et cetera. And I understand, right? Because I remember those days. So how did you go about building an autonomous team?
So I think it is working again from the foundation of picking the right people. Starting with the right team is important, but then training for sure is one of the main things and obviously building Audiology Academy. That's what it's based around. People have to be trained well. They have to be confident in what they're doing. They have to know that they have the autonomy to make decisions. And I think one of the issues with entrepreneurs in particular is that we sort of get into no one can do it better than me. And so if it's not going to get done well, I might as well do it myself. And when you do that, then you get stuck in your practice. And you get burnt out. You don't build your own skills and your own entrepreneurial bent. You sort of just get stuck in the ruts of doing the same thing every day. And you can't do that year over year and expect to grow and expect to be reach the level of success that you hope you would.
Sure. So we jumped ahead a little bit, right? Because I have this guiding principle of starting with why.
Yeah.
And I'm learning more about your how and how you've built this foundation. But if we could back up probably 5 to 10 years and talk about your why. I mean, look, very few of us in hearing healthcare ever say, I'm going to start a business, let alone start a second, a third, right? And just keep that entrepreneurial spirit alive. So what is your why behind all of this?
Yeah. So I have 2 whys. So this gets complicated. So I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest version. So the reason I'm an audiologist is because my mother was born with hearing loss and has a caused hearing loss. So she has a genetic hearing loss. And then her mother also had German measles during pregnancy. So my mother has a severe to profound hearing loss. And her first hearing aid that she got was when I was 8. So her entire life before my 8-year-old self came along, was without hearing aids. And I remember testing her in my master's degree and sort of being shocked and amazed at how much hearing loss she has and being amazed at how well she's done in her life. I sort of knew at 8 that I was going to be an audiologist. I didn't know what it was called.
Sure.
But I knew that I wanted to do something to help people like my mom. And I think it's just me having a scientific mind. I remember watching a hearing test and someone came to our house and they sort of did and then they fit her with one hearing aid. And I remember going, doesn't she have hearing loss in both ears? I'm pretty sure she does. So I knew from very, very young that I was going to help my mother.
Look at you. At 8 years old, you were already innovating the concept of binaural hearing.
And, my mother comes from a long line of women with hearing loss. My grandmother, my great-grandmother, aunts all have hearing loss. So I was meant to be an audiologist. Then skip forward. I'm in a private practice, and I am the single dispensing audiologist in the practice. And we're growing by leaps and bounds. And I went to my director and I said, we've got to hire someone. I have very small children trying to work. I'm working 60 hours a week. I am taking work home and I can't do this on my own. And he said, well, I can't really afford one yet. What else can we do? And I said, well, why don't we hire someone who can help me? Not necessarily an audiologist. And at that point, I didn't know anything about audiology assistants.
Sure.
I now know that audiology assistants have been around for a very long time. And we didn't know that we had audiology assistants, we really did at the front desk because they were cleaning hearing aids. And so we may not have called them audiology assistants, but they definitely were. But I just happened to meet a young man who was sort of questioning whether he wanted to be a hearing instrument specialist or an audiologist. And I said, come work for me and let's figure it out. And then I had to recreate the wheel because I didn't know how to train him. How do you tell him what we do? And how do I work within my scope of practice and not overrun my licensure laws to make sure that, he's not doing things that he shouldn't. And I sort of just built it. I built the training, put it in book format because people started asking me about it. This is in 2009. Mm-hmm. And then when people started saying, hey, can I buy that from you? I thought I should probably make this a little bit more than just my notes.
Right.
And put it in book format to sell. And then in 2016, my husband, who is, let me just tell you, I married up for sure. He is the brains. And he said, why is this not online? And I said, I don't know why. He said,
because us audiologists are still using pen and paper.
That's right. And he said, let's put it online. So it's been online. It started out, Audiology Academy started out as Audiology Assistant training in 2016.
Okay. And what was that? What went into building that? What are your principles of being an audiology assistant? And for those who are listening, we're going to get to the fact that this online training academy is not just audiology assistants, right? So if that's something you're not interested in and you think you're going to tune out because that's it, no, there's so much more to come on this online academy. But I just want to dig a little deeper on, because we all need help. Right. And we don't, do we put too much on our front office? Do we hire another audiologist? So I do think there's a lot of people who want to know why, how, and what of an audiology assistant.
Right. And I get that question a lot. Should I hire a hearing instrument specialist? Do I hire just another audiologist? Do I hire a new audiologist and try to train them from the ground up because it's less expensive? And really, it's not less expensive. So the audiology assistant is really, what we do is we have audiologists sit down and look at what are the things that are absolutely necessary for your practice to be successful that doesn't require your degree. So what are the things that you have to do? Well, you have to do paperwork. You have to send hearing aids out. You have to clean hearing aids. But does it require an audiologist license or a hearing instrument specialist license to clean hearing aids? In some states it does. Some states it does require, but in most states it doesn't. And what we want audiologists to do is to practice at the top of their licensure. We want audiologists to do things that are beneficial to the practice. We want your audiologist to sit in front of patients. We want you to create rapport and create relationship with patients. And the audiology assistant is absolutely the best way to get you out of the back lab or the back office and in front of patients.
So that's really the mindset there. I'm sure some business person will say, okay, so I can increase my revenue per chair hour, which is absolutely. But I think you and I share that same passion of, yeah, that's great. But what's really important is the person who was trained, who went through all these years of schooling, who said they want to grow up and be the empathetic authority and work with patients, now has the opportunity to do it.
Yes. And you said something during the neuroscience boot camp that really, I was like, yes. You said, we spend 2 hours with patients doing our hearing test, hearing aid evaluations. And when I say that to people, they're like, what? How do you have time to spend 2 hours? And I say, how do you not have time to spend time for 2 hours? You absolutely need to take that time with patients the very first time you meet them, and the audiology assistant gives you that time to do that.
Yeah. What a I've got that question a lot too. What a crazy concept. Like, what do you mean you only spend 45 minutes? Right. Cause I put it right back at them because you're, dare I say, you're cutting corners, right? Something is not being done. And I think we all agree in this field that establishing rapport is just as important as SRT testing, right? We should take time. And look, I get it. Not every patient is like, wait a second, I got to go to the doctor for 2 hours. And we're not saying every appointment is like that. But if we really want to get to understand our patients and we really want to get to develop the right treatment plan for that patient, these things take time.
Yep. You got to sit and let them talk. I think that we as audiologists are very good at saying, I'm the expert. I'm the audiologist. I'm the doctor of audiology, however, and that you need to listen to what I'm saying. And actually, I find that when I sit and I give patients time to express what they need to express and tell me their story, that allows me to tell them my story. And when I tell them my why and their why, it actually coincide. That's where fireworks happens.
Yeah, exactly. We're so smart. We're just like all the other doctors that interrupt their patients every 16 seconds. and every time I do it, I hear my own voice saying, Keith, was that 16 seconds or was it even less sometimes? And so I try to stop myself.
Yeah.
So all right. So tell us more about, so it started out as Audiology Assistant, but then obviously some light bulb went off that said, there's so much more we could do on this Audiology Academy. So how do we get from, all right, let's help others train and understand the culture and the mindset of the assistant to doing so much more? And you see this as soon as you go to audiologyacademy.com.
Yeah. So really what it came down to is my passion for women in business and entrepreneurs who are also scientists. So I have, and you have too, have met so many audiologists who just are so dialed into their expertise and have so much to teach other people who it isn't their expertise, but they don't have the platform to do that. Yes, they talk at meetings. Yes, they might have an audiology online course, but I want to sit down with those people and say, tell me what you know. Tell me how you learned this. And tell me your processes. And I become better at what I do because of those connections. So we wanted to create a platform to allow these experts to have one-on-one FaceTime with other audiologists who want to improve their practices, who want to learn more about business, who want to include other parts of audiology in their practice. And by doing that, they elevate themselves. They bring more to their patients. We serve more people that way. And so the Audiology Academy started to become this other thing where we have invited experts to come and give courses about their expertise.
So it's more of like a business owner toolbox.
Right. Exactly.
Right. With all these different modules, depending on what you're interested in, depending on what you need. Right. It's like I said, even I went and was like, oh, okay, there'll be a module 1, 2, and 3 on Audiology Assistant. And then I realized that whether we're talking APD or testing, that there's just all these different modules out there, which is great for so many people to access. Again, that's audiologyacademy.com. And I'm not shy about talking about it. For our clients, we've built our online university that has our intentions, but there are so many people doing things in different ways.
Right.
And I think any good business person, any good scientist is going to explore all of these opportunities and take information from all these different venues to improve patient care. That's what we're all here for.
Yep. And we know that you can find courses through manufacturers or through practice development groups and that sort of thing. We wanted to be independent. We didn't want to be looked at as, oh, well, this is coming from XYZ manufacturer. There's no input from manufacturers. They may have courses on our site, but they haven't influenced us at all. So you know that when you come to our site, you're finding true experts that have done this in their own practices.
Definitely. And That's what I always tell people. When you're taking advice from someone, just ask yourself or ask them, have they done it before? Is it something that they've lived through? Do they actually own a practice? Have they ever paid a bill? Have they ever had to free someone's future? Have they ever, gone from a $500,000 practice to an $8 million practice? Have they done these things? And I appreciate that we share that vision of, look, manufacturers do an amazing job at designing and building a widget. And that is a piece of what we do. And I appreciate them, whether it be, a hearing aid manufacturer, whether it be a cognitive screening manufacturer, they're Redux, there's all sorts of manufacturers out there, but we need our expertise, and we need more like-minded hearing healthcare professionals to help push us in the right direction.
That next step.
So I know you do a lot, and you've seen a lot in your time, be it from some of the beginning stages of some big buying groups. You've been on boards at some of the national organizations. Where do you see hearing healthcare going in the next 3, 5, 10 years?
That's interesting. That's an interesting question. I am very positive that audiology is on a trajectory upward. I know that there's a lot of fear right now in the industry, but I only see opportunity. I really only see opportunity. And it really is resting on us. We have to, ourselves, the doctorpreneurs in particular, have to take it on ourselves to take it to the next step. So not listen to the hype, not listen to the news, do what you do best. Make sure that you are reaching patients, make sure you're changing lives, and audiology will be around for a very long time.
You did you come up with a new word there by chance?
Doctorpreneur?
Doctorpreneur. I'm like, did she say that? And if I try to say it, I'm gonna get tongue tied. So I love that. But you know what I just heard you say? We talk about our patients' fears. We talk about the fact that we want them to overcome their fears of being sold something, their fear of cost, their fear of being diagnosed, their fear of X, Y, and Z. We want that to overcome their fears. We have to overcome our own fears.
Right.
I agree with you. I think the brightest days are ahead for hearing healthcare. Yeah. And the more we do it together, the better off we are, right? Yep. We can't be fractured. We can't be fighting with each other. We have to really come together, because at the end of the day, we're treating less than 20% of people living with hearing loss.
Right.
And if we don't do it, somebody else is going to.
Right.
And we see that right now. There is somebody else trying to do it for us over the counter. I don't think it will work long term, because they don't have the knowledge, the trust, and the authority, and the background to be able to do it.
And ultimately, we are the expert, and we have to step into that role and not be afraid of it. And it also means that you can't just sit and do what you've done for the last 20 years or even the last 5 years. Really, we have to decide that we're going to be the expert, that we're going to let it be known far and wide that if you want to have a better life, if you want to hear better, if you want to have better brain function, if you want to have a better longevity, all the things that hearing loss affects, you need to see an audiologist. So, and I don't mean to say that to disregard hearing instrument specialists. I really do think that it is hearing care professionals. We all have a space, yes. But as an audiologist, I'm going to say, go see an audiologist.
Go see somebody who's got a record. I agree with you wholeheartedly as an audiologist. At the end of the day, if 10% of people sitting on the sidelines decided tomorrow that they were going to seek help, there's not enough of us, right? There's not enough of us AUDs. There's not enough of us HIS. Like, we need to triple our efforts. There should be more of us than there are baristas at Starbucks.
Right.
But there isn't. And so I appreciate you sort of raising that point. Tell me a little bit about your practice though, too, because what we've completely ignored here is, oh, by the way, you also have a practice and you treat patients on a regular basis, which I'm still scratching my head figuring out how you do that. So
I do. I own a practice in Issaquah, Washington. It's in a beautiful spot right between the mountains and the water. So it's just a hop and skip from Seattle, but close enough to get into the ski areas. So it's a beautiful spot. It's also right down in the middle of tech. So, we have Boeing and Amazon and SpaceX and, it's Microsoft, big tech right in our area. We also have the original Costco within 5 minutes from my office.
I did not know that.
It doesn't affect us. People say all the time, "Oh, do you have to? What is Costco your biggest competitor?" No, the only competitor is ourselves. So the area is just I wouldn't be anywhere else. And I have a great team. I bought the practice 4 years ago now. From a woman who was really a giant for audiology in Washington. And I owe so much to her. And she set up an awesome practice. It really was turnkey. I walked in and said, "Hey, what are we doing? We're being successful." "Okay, well, you don't need me." But brought in our new protocols and new procedures. And the team has been amazing from the very beginning. And I feel just blessed every day that I get to do what I do. The hard part for me really is that I do have these two passions. I really do love seeing patients. I love changing their lives. I love being a part of their lives. I love showing them a new way of being involved with their families, or a different way of being involved with their families. But for really my passion for teaching and for showing audiologists new things, showing them different way to do things, training our support staff is really very important to me. And it's why they say that, do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I realized, boy, I come home at night after seeing patients and I'll work till, 12, 1 in the morning, and it doesn't feel like work because I'm doing what I love to do. And I'll do that as long as my husband will let me. But he's right along with me, actually. It's like, who's on the computer right now? But I am so lucky to be able to have the opportunity to work with both my passions on a daily basis.
Well, and I think so. Back to the sense of you've been able to build an autonomous team, which we've touched on. And the last thing I want to touch on in this episode is you talked about, and I'm sure your team is operating at the top of their license.
Yes.
That's why you're successful. That's why you can step out and your team can take over, because you've trained them to work at the top of their license. What does that mean to you?
What does it mean that they're working at the top of their license?
At the top of their, what does that phrase mean? That's one of those things that's being thrown around a lot lately.
Yeah.
And I think we share a definition of it, but what does that mean to you so that others can really realize if you want to provide great care, if you want to grow a business, it starts with the foundation and then operating at the top of your license.
Right. And I think that we were talking about, it gets very easy to do the same thing over and over for 20 years. And by the time you get to realizing, oh gosh, I'm nearing retirement, you sort of look back and you've done the same thing all along. And that I think has been the typical lifespan of an audiologist. And I think that to do our licensure justice, we need to look outside of just the hearing test or explaining the audiogram. I think that if we are doing what we should be looking at cognitive function. We should be looking at auditory processing. We should be looking at tinnitus and how to treat it, not just to diagnose it. We need to look at balance function. And even if you don't have balance equipment, you should at least do some screening. Why are we, a balance expert, not doing balance screenings? All of those things, it seems like, oh gosh, I can't do all of those in my practice. Well, you should have someone who does. If you can't do it all, then you should have someone who does, or partner with someone in your community. There's another audiologist in your area who's an expert. Work together. This is not just a standalone team, right? You're not just by yourself. There have got to be people around you that can support you in things that you're not expertise in, or that you can, that with high priority, send someone for other focuses.
Right. I think you just put it so poetically, right? We call it the ABCs, right? Auditory, balance, cognition, right? That's the ABCs of what we need to do every day. And we owe it to our patients. We owe it to the 42 million people that are sitting on the sidelines, living in fear of, should I or shouldn't I? Is it worth it? Isn't it worth it? If you provide a holistic, comprehensive approach to hearing healthcare that includes those ABCs, like I said, we will continue to chip away, and word will get out about how awesome we all are if we're all doing it.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Great. So I got to ask you a personal question before we sign off here. I always try to just throw a little curveball at the end. What's your favorite sort of movie when you're going to sit down with all the kids? You guys are going to get together. What's your favorite movie?
Oh gosh. That's a very pointed question. There are two, and both have significant meaning for me. One is Memoirs of a Geisha, and I'm going to be really honest of why. First of all, it's just a fantastically beautiful movie, just the colors and the culture, but also because it came at a turning point for me where I realized that, and I hope you don't take this wrong, but I felt like a geisha in my practice. Like I was performing. I was an expert at what I did, but I was performing, and I had to decide that I was going to take control and that I was going to do what was important for me. So that that movie came at a very pivotal time and sort of helped me turn a corner to decide I'm going to go on this entrepreneurial ride. I'm going to decide to take the control and do what's important for me and my family, and what I thought was best for patient care.
Beautiful. Yeah. That was perfect. I think that might actually be the best answer I've ever got. So, Dr. Nichole Kingham, thank you so much. Again, everybody, it's, the Audiology Academy, .com. Go and learn about everything that's there. Go hunt around the toolbox and see what might be right for you, for your practice, for others on your team. And I am just forever grateful that we finally got to record this episode and that you and I got to meet in person. Yes. And I think we're going to do great things on our own and together in the future. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.